This is the house where I'll live with my parents. We're building a duplex on that land, so get $200,000 ready for the down payment."
What's yours is ours, right?
Hearing this from my smug husband and his mother, I coldly replied,
"Well, I'm single now."
What?
"My name is Jessica, and I'm a 33-year-old corporate worker. I work for an international company, where my base salary is supplemented by performance bonuses. This setup suits my competitive nature, and I've been excelling ever since I started. I earn more than most people my age. Since I've prioritized work, my relationships never lasted long. Still, I managed to save a lot, and the dream of owning my own home was starting to feel real. Even so, building a house without someone to share it with felt lonely. About 2 years ago, I met someone who changed that. At my regular bar, a man named Tony approached me while I was drinking alone. He was an ordinary office worker, 5 years younger than me. To be honest, he was exactly my type. When he told me he'd noticed me a few times and couldn't stop thinking about me, I couldn't help but feel flattered, despite my age. We started dating shortly after, and a year later, he proposed.
"Jessica, I don't make as much as you, and I might not seem dependable, but will you marry me?"
I thought he was adorable because he looked so shy when he said it. It's true that his income was less than mine. That didn't bother me, though. What gave me pause was that his salary was slightly below average for his age group. However, since I wasn't planning to quit my job, our lifestyle would still be comfortable. When I met his parents, I felt nervous because I was 5 years older and worried it might be inappropriate. Yet, when I greeted them, his mother Mary kindly said,
It's so nice to meet you. I'm glad that Tony has now a partner like you.
I felt relieved, thinking I would be able to get along well with Tony's family. As for my family, they were overjoyed about the marriage. My mom had been worried since most of my classmates were married and even had kids, but she cried tears of happiness. Thus, Tony became my husband. He often came home before me and even prepared simple dinners sometimes. No matter how tired I was, seeing his young and smiling face at home melted my stress away. My friend would say,
"Your husband is so young and adorable. I'm jealous."
and I'd feel on top of the world. However, there were times when Tony would come home late and drunk, speaking in a harsh tone or even referring to me as an old lady.
"Who are you calling old?"
Of course, we'd fight. When I remained upset into the next day, he'd say,
"You know, I don't remember anything when I drink too much. Jessica, I'm sorry. Just ignore the drunk me, okay? This is the real me."
Then he'd embrace me with his most charming smile, the one I love, and I'd forgive him instantly. Life was happy until one day, when something unexpected happened. Checking my bank balance on my phone, I was shocked. $1,000? What was this withdrawal for? I had no memory of it. When I got home and asked Tony, he looked like he was about to cry, clasping his hands together.
"I'm sorry. My grandma broke her hip and needed surgery. I needed money fast, but my account didn't have enough, so I took it from our shared account."
He looked so remorseful. I couldn't even get angry.
"How's your grandma doing?"
"She's in rehab now."
"I see, but you should have told me."
"Sorry, you were away on a business trip, and I meant to tell you after you got back, but I forgot."
We had a joint account for shared expenses. It was under my name, but we both deposited a set amount from our salaries every month for groceries, utilities, and household items. I contributed more since I was older and earned more, but I didn't mind shouldering a bigger share. However, the large withdrawals didn't stop there. It started happening more frequently. I was the one who usually bought groceries, and we weren't buying extra household items, yet the money kept disappearing. When I asked Tony for an explanation, he said things like this.
I suddenly needed a new suit for work. I gave my parents a travel package as an anniversary gift.
Generally, I'm a patient person, but after 6 months of this, even I couldn't ignore it anymore. Should I press him harder? Should I demand proof of what he spent it on? That said, he was working steadily as a contract employee, and he was depositing money into our joint account every month even though his contributions were small. Most importantly, he kept telling me how much he loved me and we were having fun together. I didn't want to create unnecessary drama in our lives. While I was agonizing over this and letting it slide, sadness struck our home. My dad, who had been battling illness, passed away. His passing came sooner than expected, leaving my mom, my sister, and me devastated. After things had settled down a bit, we began discussing the distribution of the inheritance. I inherited part of my dad's property. Even though it was just a portion, it was still a significant piece of land. While I was talking with my mom about how to use it, Tony just sat quietly listening without chiming in. That weekend, I was blindsided by a shocking proposal from Tony and his parents. When his parents said they were visiting, I thought they were coming to offer their condolences for my dad's passing. At first, they did say,
Once again, we're so sorry for your loss.
but after that, as we were chatting over coffee, Tony brought it up.
Jessica, you were talking about what to do with the land you inherited from your dad, right?
Huh? Yeah.
Let's build a house, a duplex where we can live with my parents.
What did you say?
I was speechless at this sudden suggestion. Sure, Tony and I had talked about wanting kids someday and building a home together. Did he say a duplex? Moreover, living with his parents, not with my mom who was living alone. While I was too stunned to speak, Mary chimed in.
Isn't it great? You got the land for free. And Jessica, you've saved up so much, haven't you? Plus, you probably inherited some money too, right? You can put up $200,000 for the down payment.
Are you serious? Why is this being decided without me? I just inherited the land and I haven't even figured out how to use it yet.
That's why I figured it out for you. Look, it's our land, so it's only natural we build our house there. Isn't that obvious?
Was this how he normally talked? He sometimes talked like that when he came home drunk, but he was always so gentle when sober.
Of course, building our home there is a possibility, but whether it's a duplex or not, shouldn't we discuss it together first?
I managed to say this, but Mary butted in again.
What's there to discuss? It's already decided a duplex with us living there.
Please don't push the conversation forward without me. And about the down payment, it's not fair for me to cover it alone.
Why? You've got plenty of savings, plus the inheritance. What's yours is ours.
I was speechless again at her brazen declaration. Tony just nodded along. If Tony or his parents had approached this respectfully and asked for my help, I might have considered it. Yet the way they spoke, as if it were only natural for me to hand over the land and money, left me in shock. Had they always been this unreasonable? There was no way I could say yes to such a proposal right away. I managed to stall by saying I needed time to think about it. Looking dissatisfied, Mary left with a parting remark.
We'll be back next weekend, so have your answer ready. I don't see what there is to think about.
That night, I finally confronted my husband.
What do you mean by this? Discussing building a duplex with your parents without even talking to me.
That's when Tony showed his true colors.
What? You've been saying you wanted to own a home, and now by some stroke of luck, we've got land. The timing is perfect, right?
He had that smug look on his face, even though he wasn't saying anything clever. The face I used to love so much irritated me to no end.
By some stroke of luck? That's my dad's precious inheritance.
Well, anyway, you said you wanted to live with me in our own home, didn't you? So let's get started building it.
Changing his tactic, he came closer and spoke in a pleading tone. I was such a fool for always giving in to this act, thinking it was adorable.
But why a duplex?
Don't you want kids? If my mom lives with us, she can help take care of them. You said you didn't want to quit your job even after we have kids, so I thought this through for us.
It's true that we had talked about that. However, if I needed help, I always assumed it would come from my own mom first. I thought Mary and I had a good relationship, but since that day, she seemed like a completely different person. Without a doubt, her behavior on that day revealed her true self. This family had been putting on an act all along.
Anyway, give me some time. Inheriting land involves a lot of paperwork and procedures.
Got it, but my parents are coming over again this weekend, so let's finalize things then, okay?
With that, he stepped away from me. Even that sweet look had been an act. I couldn't hide my shock at seeing his true nature. Had everything about him been a lie? Thinking back, I began to wonder about all those times he withdrew money. What had he really used it for? Trying to calm my racing mind, I reflected on our marriage. I also started planning what to do before the weekend. The next day, I left the house as usual. I didn't head to work, but to my mom's house. My sister was also there since I had asked her to come over. I told my mom and sister what had happened. My mom was shocked, repeating,
I can't believe it.
while my sister remained calm, though surprised.
You know, I've been a little suspicious of your husband ever since I heard he was careless with money. I also heard he said things like, younger women are better, or threatened you with divorce during arguments when he came home drunk.
That's it.
I had completely forgotten about those incidents, even though I'd told my sister about them myself. He'd always sweet-talked his way out of trouble the next day, and I'd let it slide, distracted by my busy work life.
Yesterday, I remembered a lot of things. You know what? I've got an ace up my sleeve.
What is it?
When I explained further, she gave me some advice and I began to feel more confident about my decision. Then the weekend came. Mary barged into the house and said without missing a beat,
So, Jessica, you've made up your mind, haven't you? I think a custom-built house would be perfect. You're busy with work, so just leave the design to me.
She spoke as if the duplex had already been decided, practically bubbling with excitement. Then Tony chimed in.
We can get started right away, right? Leave the details to my mom and let's sign the contract. You've got the $200,000 ready, don't you?
Let me confirm something.
What is it?
The land is mine. Why would I build a house for people who have no right to live there?
Oh, Jessica, you're good at your job, but you really don't get it, do you? What's yours is ours. The land, the inheritance, all of it. So hand over the land and the $200,000 right now.
Inheritance is legally considered separate property. It's mine alone. I'm not handing it over.
You have no right to refuse. Just give it to us.
Do you feel the same way?
I looked straight at Tony.
Of course I do. What's so strange about what I said? This is finally making our marriage worth it.
Excuse me?
His words left me stunned.
What do you mean? Are you saying you married me just because I have money?
Of course, I'm still in my 20s, you know. Sure, you look young for someone 5 years older, but without money, I wouldn't have married an old lady.
I was speechless, and he continued with a smirk.
You were always at the bar alone, and I hung out there because my friend worked part-time. It's an expensive place, right? You wore a nice watch and talked about work with the bartender. It was obvious you were making good money, so I decided to hit on you.
No way. Had it always been like this from the start? I felt dizzy. At first, I thought he might have gotten greedy because of my dad's inheritance, but no, this wasn't something so simple. Really, he must be a complete idiot by bringing this up now. With a scheme this poorly thought out, even a con artist wouldn't get away with it. I felt tears welling up. Feeling inadequate and realizing that Tony was even more of an idiot than I had thought led me to this frustration. I wouldn't cry over someone like this. He wasn't my husband anymore. It was time to set things straight.
I understand your family's intentions clearly. Still, I have no intention of giving up my father's precious inheritance.
What are you even talking about now?
He's right. How many times do we have to explain this? Your stuff is our stuff. No matter what you say, we're moving forward with the duplex plans.
There's no such rule that says my things are automatically yours.
What nonsense. That's just common knowledge.
Well, there's no point in arguing with unreasonable people. Either way, it won't be yours. Because I'm not Tony's wife anymore.
What?
Tony and Mary spoke in unison. The man who had been pretending to be my husband, a third-rate gigolo, stammered.
What's that supposed to mean? Don't just say whatever you want. We're still married. I, a catch like me, married someone older like you.
So that's how you really feel. You even said so when you were drunk. Do you remember when you handed me those divorce papers in one of your drunken fits?
What? Divorce papers?
Oh, don't you remember? You were so drunk at the time. I eventually forgot about it too since you'd act normal the next day, but I kept the papers.
No way.
It was the night after your high school reunion. The next day, you tried to brush it off as some kind of dare. Since the papers were fully filled out, I have already filed them.
Are you serious?
Wait, you're kidding, right?
Mary let out a shrill cry and Tony's face went pale.
I started suspecting something around the time you began making all those withdrawals from our account. But you were always kind, so I trusted you. Now, you've shown your true colors.
You mean you actually filed for divorce?
Yes. I filed them myself, so you'll be getting the confirmation notice soon. Congratulations. My land and money have nothing to do with you anymore.
That's disgusting. You did this just to avoid giving us money.
You bet. Divorce isn't something you can just decide on your own. We'll sue you for this.
Oh my.
I couldn't help but sigh.
You two really only ever think about money, don't you?
What do you mean?
The divorce isn't just about the money. It's because I've seen your true colors.
I looked them straight in the eye and said firmly,
Ridiculous. We won't accept this. Let's sue her.
Mary shouted angrily. Clearly, my words weren't getting through. Maybe it's no wonder her son turned out this way.
Sue me? For what? Are you going to say, Your Honor, please cancel my daughter-in-law's divorce and order her to build a house for her in-laws? Do you really think that will hold up in court?
I don't know. You're supposed to obey us as Tony's wife. You need to be punished for this insolence.
Well, do as you like. Anyway, since you're no longer my family, let me share something interesting with you.
What is it?
I've had this entire conversation on speakerphone with my mom and sister back at my house.
What?
I pulled out my phone and put it on speaker.
So, there you have it, Mom.
I said, addressing my mom. Her voice came through the speaker.
It's awful that you married such a terrible person, but at least you were smart enough to document everything for the divorce.
Then, I turned to Mary.
My sister's husband is an attorney. You met him at our wedding. Do you remember? He will listen to this conversation, and I'll be getting his advice later.
I smiled brightly as I spoke.
What? There's no grounds for a divorce. You're just upset because I wanted to build a house.
Tony doubled down. I turned back to his parents.
It was your son who handed me divorce papers because he was tired of having an older wife. I filed them as I realized your true nature and because of his misappropriation of funds.
What did you say?
There have been repeated withdrawals from our joint account. If it had been spent on household expenses, that would have been fine. But the money has gone unaccounted for.
Really?
Oh, and how's Tony's grandmother's recovery? Rehab must be tough.
When I said so with mock sympathy, their confused expressions said it all.
By the way, where did you go on the trip we supposedly gifted you? We didn't even get a single souvenir. You must have had a great time, though.
Tony shook his head frantically as I spoke.
What are you talking about? A souvenir? We didn't get any trip as a gift.
Shut up, Mom.
Caught off guard, Mary blurted out the truth, earning a shout from her son. I knew it. All those excuses he gave for the large withdrawals were just lies. Maybe he was cheating, or maybe he just blew the money on something extravagant.
The divorce is already finalized. If you think it's invalid, feel free to take me to court. In that case, I'll be filing a claim for the money he misused.
I stated my resolve firmly.
Court? No way. Jessica, you still love me, right?
He still had the nerve to say that.
I did. Very much. But you never really loved me, did you?
What?
There's nothing more to talk about. Please leave. Pack your things and get out, Tony.
Are you serious?
This apartment is leased under my name, and I've already terminated the lease for the end of this month. Since I'm the one paying the rent, it's not your concern.
What are you going to do?
Don't worry about me. I've closed the joint account and split the remaining money equally between us. Frankly, you don't deserve half, but consider it a farewell gift from me.
No way. This can't be happening.
Well, goodbye. Good luck finding another sugar mama.
Jessica, don't leave me.
As he stood there in shock, I smiled and walked out without looking back at his pitiful shouting. After that, neither Tony nor Mary tried to argue that the divorce was invalid. Even a layperson could see they didn't have a case. They should have been grateful I didn't pursue reimbursement for the misappropriated money. Apparently, Tony threw a fit about leaving the apartment we shared, but since the lease was in my name and I terminated it, he had no choice but to leave. I later heard from a real estate agent who knew the situation that his parents' apartment was being demolished for redevelopment, and since the cost of moving to a new place was too much for them, they were likely to target the land I inherited. With their plans ruined, the three of them ended up crammed into a cheap apartment. The agent also told me that Tony said something like, "I'll just find another rich woman. That'll be faster." I couldn't help but laugh at how predictable he was. Even if they're fighting in their tiny apartment, at least he's still dutiful to his parents. That's one redeeming quality, I guess. Through a twist of fate, I learned what happened to him afterward. True to his word, he found a new target and tried to charm her. It was an older woman, even older than me. However, it turns out that woman was one of my former mentors. Small world, huh? Through mutual friends who had attended my wedding, word quickly got back to her that my ex was just after her money. This led to another dramatic fallout. Maybe that's why his employer ended his contract, leaving him jobless. I'm relieved that no other unsuspecting woman fell for his act. My former mentor, who narrowly avoided being scammed, told me that Tony and his parents have vacated their tiny apartment. Who knows where they went? Honestly, I can't judge too harshly as I was foolish enough to fall for him too. As for me, I decided to build a house on the land I inherited and live there with my mom. Planning the house together, talking over kitchen layouts and wallpaper choices, has been such a joy. After losing my dad and witnessing the mess with my ex, my mom has been deeply shaken, but she seems happy and full of energy again. My coworkers and friends teased me, saying,
You really fell for a pretty boy, huh?
while saying this, they steadfastly joined me for drinks and showed genuine concern. I'm so grateful for their friendship. With my family and friends by my side, I'll be just fine. I'm looking forward to the completion of our new home, all while continuing to focus on my work. One day, my mom said to me,
Life is a never-ending lesson, isn't it?
she's right. I definitely need to sharpen my instincts when it comes to men.